On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very abundant treat. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, dynamic storyteller, content creator, best-selling author, speaker, and leading menopause advocate, just to name a few. Turning 50 marked a pivotal moment for her, sparking a quest filled with new experiences and deep reflections on midlife. She now guides millions through the complexities of midlife transitions, from menopause to career shifts, ensuring no woman feels alone during these transformative years, which I deeply admire. She facilitates deep and profound conversations to share empowering stories and practical advice for those facing their own now what moments with courage and curiosity. Her commitment extends beyond personal growth. She's a supporter of global humanitarian efforts, and she's a powerful voice in the fight against breast cancer. Whether it's through her impactful books or her role in producing and hosting the Broadway Show, she's dedicated to empowering women and people in general to design the lives they desire at any age. Big facts. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life, an extraordinary human being. Please welcome the resilient, compassionate, hopeful, beautiful, and brilliant, the abundant Tamsen Fadal. How you doing, Tamsen?
Wow, I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you. Very kind of you.
My pleasure. I did good by you. You feel good and ready?
My
Nice.
God, I'm very energized. I hope I can live up to it with any sentence now going forward.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's your story. You wrote it. I just said it with a New York accent.
Well, you did. I love that too. I'm a New Yorker through and through.
You're a New Yorker at heart, aren't you?
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. There's no question. I delivered the news in New York for, I don't know, 20 plus years. That's how many? I guess I was in Philly and yeah, like 15, 20, no, 20 years.
Yeah.
So I think
It's
that's
funny.
official.
I hear a lot that people like New York to visit, but they can't necessarily live there. It takes a different type of cat to make it here, as they say. Would you agree?
I think so, totally. You know what though? I always feel like New York was a lot like my career as a journalist. Like everything was different every single day, and I never knew what was going to happen. And I think that that's just kind of what drives me. And I think even now as an entrepreneur, that's what drives me too. Like every day it's, something else. And that's how it is in New York, whether it's how you get around, who you're going to run into, who you're going to see, what's going to happen by the end of the day. So yeah,
So true. I love
special
that.
people.
100%. There's so many places we could take this conversation. For our listeners, in case you're not familiar, my best suggestion is do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the awesome stuff she has going on. What I think will be most productive today is we should have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little crazy. Ready for me?
I'm ready. Let's go.
What is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower. I think my superpower is, I think it's listening. I think it's listening. It's the only thing that's gotten me through everything that I've done so far, was hearing other people's stories and then being able to share them. That's
Oh,
it.
oh, this is going to
Simple.
be good. This is going to be real good.
I
Yeah.
better listen to all your questions.
And it wasn't so long ago that you made a big shift, right? To leave not
Yeah.
just a stable, but a very exciting, productive, successful career, and really go all in to something that you feel very connected to. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that I had like a super plan. Like I knew I was going to do it for a little while, but when I started to make that shift and I was questioning myself, maybe before the pandemic, in 2019, and I kept hearing this voice like, now what? Now what? What are you doing? And I had an incident in 2019 in the studio during a live newscast where I landed on the floor of the bathroom, my heart racing out of control, sweating, like not knowing what was going on. Um, Several doctor visits later, I realized that I had hit menopause and was having some of the many symptoms that can be pretty debilitating. And among mine were brain fog. And that was a really tough one. So I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you. I'd start a sentence and I'd be like, wait, what was I saying?
Hmm.
Which could happen. But anyway, I did a deep dive into what that was and what was going on with my body and myself. And I kept going deeper, deeper, and met this incredible community of people that were trying to understand it themselves, one, and two, get the word out there. And then it just never stopped. So 6 months ago, I decided I was going to step down as anchoring the evening news after 15 years in that chair and start on this next chapter, journey, quest. I don't know which word to use.
Yeah, I love it. And I know a thing or two about reinvention.
Yeah.
And I know what it takes because I have conscious after spending 13 years on Wall Street, feeling very unfulfilled. And I imagine that's not how you felt with your profession, but you just felt much more connected to this. And I know a lot of our listeners and so forth, is kind of off topic, but also relevant, want to do something more than they're currently doing or selling for. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage to step into that with no guarantees and so forth. What did it take for you to kind of detach from plan B and really go all in?
Yeah, I like how you put that because there are no guarantees, right, with anything. And I think, it took time. There was no question. It took support from people who were close to me. It took a lot of me going, am I doing the right thing? Am I sure? Wait, not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. So I did a lot of that. It wasn't, I think sometimes on the outside, you look at somebody and you say, oh my gosh, they made this big, bold decision and look what they did. And now they're going forward. And whatever it looks like on the outside is not, it's not what it's like here. There's a lot of question and wondering and a lot of fear that you move through, not around. And yeah, so I'm excited where I am today. I can't believe it. Sometimes I pinch myself, with an opportunity that comes in my inbox or a phone call that I get. And then there's other days where I go, I had 2 days ago, I'm like, what if nothing else happens tomorrow? I said that to my best friend and she goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. What if nothing else happens tomorrow? And then literally by the end of that day, two seemingly great things happened. So I just think it's about being okay with not always having that perfect plan. And I think it's also about preparing. I had to prepare for a few years to be able to leave that job, which was a very stable job that I was confident in, and I knew what was going to happen from day to day, and go out into some area that it's all new to me. It's really all new.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of faith, I imagine, to make a
Yeah.
move like that because of the uncertainty and the fear and so forth. And it's kind of cliche, but there's an analogy in like an entrepreneurship. You don't have to worry about the whole staircase, just the next step. But to the degree that is true, I'm wondering, is that very important to you, like connecting and faith, whatever your thing is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've always had that, and I've moved from city to city and job to job, and I always felt like I've always had that faith that it was going to be okay. Like that next step was going to be there, even if I couldn't see it and I didn't know what was going on. And, I lost my mother at an early age. So I always feel like I've talked to her, and said like, am I doing the right thing? I just always feel like I've had that connection, and that's been really important to me through my life. And I have a very close family too, and that's been a lot of my strength, a lot where that comes from as well.
Love it. And now you're everywhere. Talk about menopause. Can't make this stuff up. And you're just getting warmed up. And one of the reasons why I really gravitated towards the message, I know our audience will as well, besides the many reasons, because you like to talk about how it's never too late, you're never too old. And in fact, now where you're at is just the beginning in some aspects. It's a brand new chapter. And I believe that you're just getting warmed up. Why do the society feel the opposite? Like after 50 or even kind of the 40s, like, oh no, now it's like the hourglass is running out. Why is
Yeah,
that?
it's this invisibility, right? It's like we put this invisibility cloak over us. I think that's been societal, and it's been such a long time and such a damaging message. And it's a message that comes from media. It comes from the fact that, you go see you see commercials, and if they're talking about anyone that's 50 and over, these people, they make people look like helpless and weak, and like there's nothing left but to just sit there. And that if you meet most 50-year-olds nowadays, it's unbelievable. These people have started new businesses, new chapters, they're running marathons or traveling all over the world. Like that's not even the beginning of the end. And so I think that that's a message that has to change. I know it's going to take time. I know it's going to take a lot of different voices, but I hope I'm among those voices. And I also think that it's something in our society that we've been ingrained to think that, after this certain age, there's no roadmap. We've not really had a roadmap. I lost my mom at an early age, but when I was growing up, my thought was, I'm going to stay in my job, I'm going to be a news journalist, and eventually, like, hopefully they'll hold on to me and keep me. And the truth is that I wound up leaving on my own terms, in a really good way to pursue something else. So I hope that more people see examples like that and feel comfortable in knowing that there's a lot left after that first chapter.
Yeah, it's kind of contradictory, right? Like oftentimes, like when men that are like in the public eye, as they start to get older, like they're more handsome or whatever the case may be. But women, it's kind of been the opposite, and that's just not true.
Yeah, men are sophisticated, right?
Yeah.
It's got gray hair now. And a woman is like, why don't you cover that up? What are you doing? Like, why do you have this whole thing of gray hair there? So yeah, it is quite the contradiction. And, I think it's going to take time. And again, it's going to take these voices and showing these different faces in the media, on television, in magazines. Like I get so excited when I see swimsuit, models that are 50, 60 years old. Like I get really excited by that because I think that that's the kind of messaging that we need long term down the line, that this is not, you're not over because you hit 50. You know what it's been like, oh my gosh, my 50th birthday is coming up, or you don't look 50. I don't know what that's supposed to look like anymore because I don't think we have that face. I
Yeah.
mean, we're one by one getting them, but I don't think we have a face of 50 anymore.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I imagine you could probably agree with this, like 30 sounded old, right? And now it's like I just celebrated my 39th birthday. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. And 40 is kind of a big one, I guess, but
Wow.
I really believe like I just put it all together and I haven't even really scratched the surface yet. And I think 50 is, I hear from a lot of people, 40s, 50s, even 60s are some of the best decades. So I personally, God willing, I'm very excited for them. But
I,
what were you going to say?
I know I love hearing that because I don't think that I had that foresight when I was that age. I mean, I didn't think like that. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be 40,
Yeah,
because sometimes for women, those ages signify different things, right?
true.
And I don't think I was excited about those. I wasn't scared of them, but I wasn't excited about them. But I'm
Yeah,
hopeful that if we change that stigma, that people will be excited about that. Because I think you start to develop this wisdom, and then you just start to develop this like, okay, like this is my someday. This is the day I've been waiting for. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
yeah. And also just more information, right? Like there's not, I heard you say somewhere that there's not really a big roadmap for what happens to women's bodies after 40. And so unpredictability, uncertainty, that can cause like anxiety and so forth. But just talking about it, giving people a proactive approach, what they could look forward to, how they can play offense, so to speak. I think that helps too.
Yeah, I think if you don't know what's going on, I mean, that's half the battle, right? You have got to educate women and men about what's going on with their bodies. And there isn't that roadmap. There's this roadmap up until, years of fertility. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, good luck. This is kind of what just happens, deal with it. And so when I saw that happening, and that's getting younger and younger, because when we talk about menopause, we talk about midlife health, we talk about women's health, kind of falls off it falls off the cliff at 40 years old in terms of education and understanding, and that shouldn't be the case. These are some great years, but you have to know what it is that you need to do to keep them that way. Your workout might change a little bit, how you think about things changing, but if you don't know what you're dealing with, I felt like I was losing it, and I lost my confidence because I couldn't talk just to have a conversation because I was having this brain fog because of a lack of estrogen in my body, but I had no idea. And to have 1 billion women by the year 2025 that are going to be dealing with this in their 40s, 50s, 60s, like that's not okay. We need that information.
And being informed gives you confidence.
100%. At least it gives you some kind of direction, right? Because you think the worst. You think like, do I have dementia? Is there something wrong with me? Is there something worse? And I lost my mother at an early age to breast cancer. That always kind of hung over my head as, oh my gosh, is that gonna, like, that's what I have to worry about. And so that I never had anyone to talk to about anything else. That was the only fear. But when you have that kind of education and knowledge, it makes such a huge difference. And then you can get on the road to treating symptoms or treating reactions or treating what it is you need to deal with.
Yeah, love it. Just to give people some knowledge and so forth, maybe there's a lot of women in our audience and so forth, a little bit like midlife, I guess you would call it. How do you know if you're going through menopause? Like, is that something that the doctor tells you, or like, how do you become aware of that?
Sadly, I'm so glad you're asking that. Can you imagine we wouldn't have had this conversation like 2 years ago or something, right? That's where I feel like change is starting to happen. Because
Good.
I would have been talking about it, and I don't know that you would have been, wanting to talk about it. But there's a very small number of doctors that feel confident about treating or talking about menopause, sadly. It was something that really has not been studied very much in medical school. There was a survey recently that said, just a small percentage of residents in medical school were actually trained or taught to understand or learn about menopause. So that's kind of one area that's scary. And the other one is that we don't realize that you have to back it up quite a bit. So the average age in the US is 51 years old. And so, but you have what's before menopause. Menopause is going 12 months without your period. But what happens for the years before that, about 10 years before that, 7 to 10 years before that, is a time called perimenopause, where you start dealing with a lot of the symptoms that we all hear about: hot flashes, brain fog, heart beating out of control, dry skin, losing hair. So there's like 34 plus symptoms. And so women start to experience some of those symptoms on and off, and they're like, I don't know why my skin's so dry lately, or gosh, my hair seems to be a lot thinner than it used to be, or oh, I'm hot all the time. And so they're going through that in their 40s. And so it is a sin to not be educating women and men in these earlier stages of life, so they understand what they're going through and they don't feel like they're just dealing with something that's abnormal.
So these are the symptoms that people can kind of expect, but then that kind of tells them where they're at, maybe in the time frame. Like, oh, you still have a couple of years left, but this is what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, so if you're still going through your period, you're most likely in perimenopause. And I'm not a doctor, there's some incredible doctors out there that, that you can go to and talk to about it, and we'll give you different treatment options, whether your treatment options are hormones to replace, what's been lost in your body to help you sleep better. But lack of sleep is another huge one that a lot of women deal with. So if you are in perimenopause, most likely, everybody's different, most likely you'll be dealing with some of these symptoms. After you go 12 months without your period, then you're menopausal that one day, and then your postmenopause after that. And oftentimes a lot of those symptoms start to come, tap down a little bit. But I put a symptom tracker together just to help women keep track of it. So you can say, like, check the box, I had this, and this is how many times. So you can walk into your doctor with knowledge, because that's really what my advocacy is about, is you have to be a partner in this with your doctor. You can't go into the doctor and be like, I've got this and this and this. I did. And the first time I did that, they put me on antidepressants. They were like, it's probably stress from your divorce. So take Lexapro and call us in the morning, so really that's what it was. What I didn't know is I was in perimenopause at the time. And had I known that, I probably would have treated things a little bit differently.
Definitely would have treated things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Or at least felt like I wasn't losing it.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. And some of the symptoms are, correct me if I'm wrong, you lose a little bit of estrogen.
Yeah, you lose a lot of estrogen, and then you also replace progesterone, and then sometimes women replace their testosterone levels too. But when this all happens, we're talking about lack of sleep, we're talking about brain fog, talking about the traditional hot flashes, night sweats, cold sweats, painful sex, lack of libido. I mean, they have something out there called gray divorces, and oftentimes they say, like, oh gosh, people get divorced in midlife because of all the stressors and this and that. And there was a study that was done out of the UK that said at this time in life, a lot of women, their hormones just kind of, they go off the cliff, and where they're also seeing that relation to where divorces, are happening around that same time frame. And I don't know that you can blame it on that, but I would say that that is a time of a lot of change for women.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I know. I know.
because based on what you just said, based on what you went through, there's a lot of stress, uncertainty, maybe lack of answers that comes along with this time period. And if the doctors aren't really like diagnosing it properly, just saying you're taking an antidepressant, then that probably creates more stress and creates a stressful environment.
Can you imagine if you go to your doctor? I mean, this is I don't imagine millions of women it happens to. You go into your doctor and you give them 5 of these symptoms, right? And the doctor could say one of 2 things. Like, hopefully you're with somebody that is confident at treating this and says, like, listen, you're in this stage where this is like this average, what happens during this time. So let's go in and here's some of your options. If you don't have somebody like that and they say, this is a normal life transition, so you'll get through it. You'll get through it. It's not gonna be that bad. You can, just kind of suck it up and you'll get through it. These are women that are going to work. They're in the boardroom. They're entrepreneurs. They're running big companies. They're trying to get through life. They're raising kids. They're helping aging parents. And so to have all of that go together is just, it's not okay. And I think that that's where I said, oh, wow, I need to, figure out what's going on with me and then spread the message. So that's not happening with somebody else. I don't have a younger sister and I don't have a daughter, but I think I can do my part. And so I went on TikTok the first time listing those 34 symptoms. And the response I got was, I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, oh, wow, there's information there's a lack of information here. And so
Yeah.
that's where I started storytelling.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. 2 things. Number one, you have an amazing following. And yours is, I like to say there's a difference between an audience and a community, but with the topics that you talk about, you've really built a community.
We
And
have a
that's really powerful, really beautiful. People feel safe in regard with speaking about this stuff with you.
I hope so. Thank you for that. I think that we all have to have that safe space, right? Whether we're talking about divorce or we're talking about aging or we're talking about irrelevance or reinvention or menopause. I think that all those are important. And there are a lot of fears that come along with all those things. I mean, reinvention is a big is a big conversation right now. People want, answers. Like, change is scary, and we don't all have them. We don't all have all answers, but if we have a platform that we can give people to talk to each other about it and share our fears, it feels a lot better.
Yeah. Has there been something, I imagine there's probably millions, but is there something that sticks out, like a comment that you received? Obviously, we don't have to say what's wrong, but something that really just like, all right, I know I'm on the path right now. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be because you really helped someone with a piece of content, something like that.
I hear from a lot of women, primarily in this age range, like in the 50, 51, 52 years old, that are trying to start making some of these changes. And I think that, I get a lot of those comments like, thank you, because I felt like I was the only person going through these fears of not knowing what's next or not feeling totally satisfied. And then some of the other interesting comments come from men that are thankful to understand what their wives or partners are going through. And I think that that's kind of really cool, because that sort of shows us that that's a well-rounded community, right? Of
So
everybody trying to help each other.
I think
It's
that,
what you're doing.
yeah,
It's just when you have a platform and you use it for the right reasons and you use it for other people and you use it so everybody feels better and you can really be open and raw about who you are. I mean, that's what creates change, right?
100%, because you're sharing without an agenda and you're doing it without needing recognition. And spiritually speaking, that's when you reveal a lot more light, and that's when it really creates a ripple effect.
Can't you feel that difference? So like if you get all wrapped up, I mean, I don't know, but this is how I feel. If I get all wrapped up in like whatever the end goal is, right? Like, I gotta, at the end of, and you forget the reason after, like for whatever it is, because you got stressed out that week or because there was some pressure you've put on yourself. And then you sit back and you remember the real reason that you're doing that and who you're really helping and what makes a difference. Or this morning I got an email from a daughter who had sent one of my videos to her mother, and her mother's getting help now. I mean, and it throws me back on my heels, and I go, oh yeah, like, that's what it is. I try to read the messages. I try to respond to as many as I can, because I think then you don't lose sight of who you're talking with. And so you're not talking at people. And that's the difference. You're talking with people and not at them. And I think that's what's important.
That was
And
really
it
beautiful.
feeds you, it feeds your soul.
That was really beautiful. Yeah, and it's like when you help these other people, you help them reveal their light because now they have some information. They know they're not alone, and that's how you reveal your own light. And then the good stuff keeps coming.
Yeah, it's really true. And I think you're also drawn to the right people too. My mom, when like the year that she died, she was, she had said that quote, like the five people you're surrounded with. And I never really understood it. And I was like, I don't care about anybody if you're not here. Like I was young, I was 20 years old and, or 19 years old. And, I remember, years later, I thought like, wow, that's what it's about. It's about people that share your value system. It's about people that that you can really connect with. And it's people that are here doing right by other people and not just on their own path and their own train, and not teaching and learning at the same time.
Yeah,
Because we all have to learn, like we all don't know, everything.
yeah, of course. Before you mentioned we're talking about estrogen, you also said testosterone. Women can
Yeah.
actually add testosterone.
Yeah, well, replace, yeah, because we have testosterone too. There is not a women's FDA approved testosterone, so we have to use a man's, and oftentimes it has to be compounded. So it's a certain pharmacy, and you've got to talk to a doctor that feels comfortable prescribing it, comfortable treating this, comfortable explaining it to you. But we use a tenth of a dose, so I'll just speak with what I do. So I use a man's tenth of a dose of testosterone, and it makes a big difference. I didn't do that at first. I was really scared. I was always like, I'm natural. I'm not going to do anything like that. But it was debilitating for me, and I didn't understand what was really going on with my body. And so that's where I started on hormone therapy, estrogen and progesterone, and then eventually about 6 months ago now, maybe a little bit more, added in testosterone.
Good for you. Yeah, and also you recently got married, right?
I got married, yeah, at 50 years old for a second time. Yeah.
50 years young, just get warmed up.
50 years young. Thank you very much for that. Yes.
I
A thing
imagine
I was never going to do again. But I'm
I,
so glad.
so you thought you would never do it again, is that what you said?
That's what I said when I went through my divorce. It was really a difficult time. And I said, I will never get married again. And then I met my husband and I was like, I just want you to know I'm never getting married. And then it's always when you say something like that, right? And you're proven wrong. And I met somebody that we share a value system and we share I don't know, he's that person that makes me feel like it's all going to be okay. And I think that's who I want to walk beside around the world. And so it's been really nice. We're kind of come up on 3 years now.
I love
So
that. Just
yeah.
twinkling in your eyes. I'm a little bit emotional now myself. I'm getting
Oh,
engaged. I'm getting married in September. First,
oh
time,
wow.
hopefully the only time.
Yes, hopefully, like, congratulations to you. That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Yeah, we're
That's where are you
pumped.
getting
We're
married in New York or where?
in Long Island.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
My husband's originally from Long Island.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
Yes, very nice. Well, I'm happy for you. I think I know that people like they're like, oh, marriage. But we have a great time. And I enjoy just being able to talk openly and freely and not feel any kind of, I don't have to put on any airs. I don't have to change who I am. And that's what a lot of those videos I do are about. When I do this advice to my, 20-year-old self or 30-year-old self, I wish that I had known a lot of this stuff. Like I didn't have to twist myself into a pretzel to be with the right person. I think that those are important lessons.
Yeah, I love it. And to be clear, I think there's a lot of people who think like, oh, if you're in the right relationship, you're never arguing, you're never getting a fight. That's not really a soulmate, that's a body mate. A soulmate or the right person is actually supposed to kind of trigger you a little bit, invite you to that next evolution of mastery by putting the mirror in front of you. I like to say with no friction, there could be no light. Obviously, healthy arguments and so forth, but a lot goes into relationship for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anybody has a perfect relationship, like call me, but I don't know. I've never seen that before. And I don't know that I want the perfect relationship. I
Oh,
want one that feeds me. And
yeah.
so, and that's what this does. And we have a good time. And I don't think that I really understood what that was supposed to be like. I was working a lot and I got married and I didn't look at some of the things I look at now as important parts of a relationship and what I really needed. And so now I do. And so we have a good time. He doesn't love when I put him on camera. That's only one thing.
Same about my fiance.
But that's the way it is.
Yeah. And you don't want to marry like yourself, like someone that's
Oh God,
exactly
no. Can you imagine?
it's so funny.
No, that would not be fun.
Yeah, I love
That
it.
would not.
Pivoting for a second, why is women's health so underfunded? How do we change that?
If you could answer that, if I could answer that. I do know this. We have a lot of bills that are being proposed right now, bipartisan legislation to try and get some funding into women's health. But, women weren't even part of medical studies until, not too long ago. They weren't required or mandated to be part of them. So that's just a tragedy in and of itself. So a lot of our healthcare system is built on has worked for men, which is case in point why we don't have testosterone for women. We have to use man's and, cut it in a tenth. I just think that for years, what was really important in terms of women's health was, up to a certain age. And once we got past that, it just seemed like it just fell off of a cliff and it's not okay. And so overall, women's health has got to have funding, not just funding. We need, studies to be done. We need some studies to be redone, especially in this space of menopause and midlife women's care. I think we need to be able to educate. That's a huge part of this one bill that's being proposed right now, is to do public service awareness campaigns, things that you don't hear about. I was talking to a couple of friends that own these women's health companies. They had a hard time getting it on the air because there were certain words that they didn't want to use on television where, we see pills for men all the time. There's a small number of them for women, a large number for men. So when we look at that, it's not okay. And I think that we're finally stepping up and talking about it. Why? I have no idea, but I know it can't continue.
Yeah. Fair enough. And one of the many reasons why it's so productive what you're doing and so helpful. It's funny because I could feel like an energy shift when women are like north of 50 and something happens, they almost feel like, all right, well, it was a good run. Like a lot of women, a lot of people get divorced. I mean, that's just, I mean, divorce rate's very high. But like a man at that age is like, all right, back on the saddle. But a woman doesn't even really want to go on dates. And not everyone, but just some people that I've experienced so far, like they think like, all right, like, maybe I'm damaged goods, but that couldn't be further from the truth. And
Yeah.
that's one reason why I wanted to have you on it is to even just bring up the conversation of no matter what age you are, specifically 50s, 60s or over, it's never too late to begin again, right? With a different mindset.
I always say, I say two things. Like, I think that this is kind of my someday, we spend a lot of our lives when we're younger going like, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do that. And so I think that this time is our someday, but you're right about that. I mean, I think that oftentimes women, and I guess I've always noticed it, but I didn't until I lived it. It wasn't something that I really knew how to deal with. But I think that oftentimes women are dealing with a lot of different things all at once, especially now we're in the workplace even longer. I mean, we're seeing, all of us are in the workplace a lot longer. And, that doesn't mean because we're at a certain age, we can't perform to how we performed when we were younger, or at least perform, like a man is doing. And I think that there's this discrepancy and confusion about that when it comes to women. And I do try to motivate and bring that confidence and curiosity into a lot of the conversation, because when I see a woman's light turned on, that's huge for me. Like when they feel like they can do anything, that's huge for me. And often, I hate to always go back to menopause, but we have these hormonal changes. And when you think about the hormonal changes we went through when we were younger, and now we go through them all over again, in our 40s and 50s, it's no wonder that things can be discouraging sometime. If you're not fixing what's going on or replenishing or replacing what's going on, you can be feeling upset or down or depressed or not yourself, or like something's wrong with you. And so I think that that's what we've got to pay attention to that part first, so women don't get that feeling or feel discouraged.
You're a,
As,
you're a trailblazer. Uh,
I don't know.
I'm really proud of you. No, I'm being serious. It's really beautiful. And you showcase what's possible, and you
Thanks.
give people permission, right, to consider a different narrative. Maybe my life is just getting warmed up in many aspects despite any age. And I was checking out your content, which by the way, I suggest everybody to immediately follow this episode. And one of the things that I saw that you were doing, which I thought was really cool and special, is spending time by yourself and going on solo dates or to a restaurant by yourself. I thought that was so sexy and like it just displayed confidence. And
Thank
I
you.
imagine a lot of people probably wouldn't do that and they might complain like they can't find a man, but you, first of all, you're not single, but you put yourself in an environment like that. Why do you do that? Just curious.
I went through my divorce in 2011, and I would go, I would live in New York, and I was like, I gotta get something to eat. And I'd walk into these restaurants and I'd be like, yeah, one. And they would be like, just one. And they'd go, do you want to sit at the bar? And I go, no, it's not, no, I want to sit at a table. But for a long time, I'd go like, yeah, or I'd kind of shirk out of there like, oh, sorry, I'm bothering you because
Yeah.
I'm only a table of one. And I thought like, that is not, so over time it made me angry, because I'd be like, I'll just take it to go. And then I went, no, what am I doing? Like I deserve to be heard just like anybody else does, just because I don't have somebody else with me. And so that happened a lot back then. And I never stopped doing it because I just think there's something kind of nice about it. I mean, sometimes I just need some time to think. Sometimes I'm in a different city like that, like this. A week ago, I was in Chicago and there was this event going on. Everyone wanted to go out and I just needed some time to think. So I like took myself out to dinner and it was really cool because I went up to the hostess stand and I said, hi, one. And she was like, great. Do you want to sit on this side or this side? And I was like, oh, things are changing. Like, she didn't go, do you want to be relegated to this back area?
Yeah.
But it happened to me about 6 months ago in New York City, and I did a video about it. And I was really mad. And they put me in this like I don't know, all these tables were like over here filled with people and people are having a good time and eating. And I was like in this back area by the kitchen and, alone in this table. And I got up and I walked out and I was like, you guys got to learn how to treat parties of one. Because there's a lot of parties of one out there and you shouldn't feel ashamed or feel like it's not okay and that you don't deserve to be having a good time because you're single. I spent a lot of years single, so that's why.
Yeah, beautifully said. And also, I imagine you like your own time once in a while, like white space and just disconnect for a minute. I know that's very important for me. One of the things that I need to be better at is because, say very humbly, since I reinvented myself, the brand's really taken off and there's a lot going on. We're scaling, we're hiring, but I'm wearing a lot of hats. And oftentimes my days are like back to back all day long. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm in charge of my own schedule here. I could block out things. I can go for a walk. I could
Right.
just connect. And I actually found myself more productive when I do that. Is alone time important to you?
Yeah, I completely resonate with what you're saying because I started getting up in the morning and getting outside right away just to clear my head and and when I'm walking, I'll look at my email or I'll make some phone calls but I just feel like I need that time for myself to just kind of connect and to figure out what my day is going to look like because I don't want to be in that rat race all the time of like I'm so important, I've got to keep going. And that doesn't mean that a lot of things aren't coming at me and I don't want to miss anything, but I do think that I'm not productive if I can't think straight. I'm just not. And I've learned that I have certain ways I have to do stuff. Like I've got to write things down. I have to. That's the only way I can see it. It's old school and it's what I
Same,
do.
same. I have all these like old school things written in pen.
Me too. I was like, I'm sorry. I know everyone's doing it digitally, but I got paper. I've got to do it. But I do want that time and I do think that you're more productive if you can bring some of outside in or light in or figure out whatever that creativity looks like for you. I think for everyone it's different.
How important has community been for you, especially in these last few years, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and aligned? Because not only entrepreneurship, but sometimes life can feel a little bit lonely. Community, I think, is such a cheat code to feel supported.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that I wouldn't have been able to do this without it. First. And I think that community has shown me, like I didn't really, for a long time, I was like, yeah, I'll do that later. Someday I'll deal with it. Someday I'll pay attention
Someday.
to relationships in front someday. And I realized maybe like 3 years ago or something like that, that community aspect is everything. Not only does it fuel me, and I hope that I do that for other people, but I also think it really teaches me like what direction to go in. Like if you're so in your own head and you're not listening, like we go back to what you asked me my superpower, if you're not listening, like you really don't know what direction you're supposed to be going in. Like you can decide that, but that doesn't equate with everything else. And so I think for me, community's been a big part of driving what happens next, driving what the conversation is, driving what I talk about. I'm working on a documentary about menopause. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, would I do that? No, but I wouldn't have even known, I wouldn't even known about this topic. But community has taught me like, what is important and that there's like-minded people and people that need help. And so just for me, it's really important that I took my storytelling and put it in the right direction. And don't get me wrong, I love storytelling in New York. Like what a great city to do that all those years as a journalist and a broadcaster. But I mean, this is just a whole other level of storytelling, about women's issues, women's health, and midlife. And it's very different and it resonates deeply with me.
What did you love most about journalism and being a broadcaster?
I love change. I love when we were able to help somebody implement change, give somebody a voice. I liked every day being different. I always enjoyed that. Uh, and I think, yeah, I think that those are the most important things. I think that, you can do a lot in that, in a lot of different mediums now, but I think then, we didn't have social media where you could jump on there and say like, this person's doing this to me, this landlord or this business. And so that's what we did back then. We'd be like, cameras would show up and they'd be like, why are you not, giving this person their money back or whatever it is. And so those kind of changes were very, very important to me. And especially in a city like New York, like, traffic and weather and moving it along and local stories and like I've done local my whole life. And so I was always very in tune with the communities that I lived in. And that goes back to the word community.
Absolutely love it. Um, So insightful. So many nuggets in here. A lot of people talk
Have
about
some yourself.
what's that?
You have so many yourself, which is
Thank
very
you. Yeah, we'll definitely do more things. I'm loving the conversation. Before you mention like sex after menopause and stuff like that, I know that women get maybe stressed out or anxiety. They think maybe their sex life's over after that and stuff. Is there something they could do aside, I guess, understanding the information? You could do things with, being proactive and so forth. What about just like a mindset? Like, what would you tell someone that thinks, oh, no more sex after 50, or that's it for me, or whatever the case may be?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things. One mindset is obviously huge, but it's really physical too. You know, it's physical. Like there's changes that happen when we lose estrogen, and so sex becomes very painful for a lot of women, and they don't understand it. And then what happens is they don't understand it. Their doctors are not treating it, or don't know how to treat it, or haven't explained the options that are necessary, which is replenishing that estrogen. If you can do that, not everybody can do, hormone therapy. There are people that cannot do it due to, if they've had breast cancer, there's different people, they have a history of stroke. And so, knowing some of those solutions, what those solutions are the most important thing. And then really making sure the partner knows that too, because I think that what happens is it becomes this lack of communication, right? Like a woman is in pain, and I know this from experience, like painful sex, don't want to have it. And now the partner is like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? What happened to us?
Mm,
Why? And nobody knows how to have that conversation. It's not a normal conversation or it's not a conversation that's been normalized, which it needs to be. And I think that that's really where I realized, like, wow, all these things are happening. I hit menopause. I was getting married. I said I was the menopausal bride. Like that was what happened. It wasn't, it was just like all of that hit at the same time. And I dealt with all those things. And so that was why I have a book coming out in March, and and my husband's like, are you talking about everything in this book? And I said, well, not everything, but a lot of things. But it was really important for me to share what I went through, because I think that's what I've done on social, and I have to be real about it. Like I can't pretend that, hey, I just took this pill and everything, I put a little patch on, everything was great. Like that's just not how it worked. So, if I had to, and I do talk to a lot of women, I say, like, first, make sure you get yourself with somebody who really understands what you're dealing with right now. Second, make sure that, you look at the different options that are available to you and you really talk about what you can do. And then third, make sure your partner is a partner in this conversation, so they understand that this isn't a personal thing. Like this is something that, physically has happened to them, and that's where they're at. And so they understand that, they can be part of the solution. And
mm.
I gave a keynote in Vegas 2 weeks ago, and I was so, like, the women that came up to me, it was like really super special, but two men came up to me, and both of them said, one had gotten into a new relationship in their mid 40s, and one of them had been in a relationship for a long time, and they were in their 50s now. And they both had said, like, look, we were having, issues, like my wife didn't want to have sex, it was painful, and they went to the doctor, and they were part of the process, and they said it just resonated so much. So for those two guys to come up to me and say that, a stranger, I'm a total stranger, makes me know that they want to be part of that solution. Most guys want to be part of that solution, or most partners want to be part of that solution. And that's, I think that's very promising. I really, really do.
So good. And in relationship, communicating, part of the solution,
Oh,
same team,
huge.
understanding. Yeah.
Well, communication is everything. It's just not so easy all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy to just be, it's not easy to always like kind of take that down. Like you want to be this good partner. And then I think sometimes we put things up like, oh, I don't want to make somebody uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to talk about sex. I don't know how to say what I like or don't like, or, that I feel this way or don't feel that way. It's not an easy conversation to have. We weren't taught how to have it,
That's
for sure.
true. And it's one thing, if I'm being honest and vulnerable, back in the day, I used to try to avoid conversations like that. But now I actually know that tough and uncomfortable conversations are where you create the most growth and expansion. Now, it's true that not everyone will work out the way you want it. Someone might not take it the right way, but that's also a good sign. You don't want to waste your time. But most people, when you're willing to have those tough conversations, it will actually strengthen, even if there's short-term disagreement, it should strengthen the bond and growth between you two. Would you agree?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think and look, I agree with you. It can be uncomfortable, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. But if you don't have it, then you're just pretending.
Of course.
Like, do you know how exhausting pretending is? Like, it's so freaking exhausting. And I think that's the other thing that happens when you get a little bit older. It's like, you're done pretending. 3 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, I gotta put eyelashes on and make sure my hair, make sure everything's perfect. Like, I'm done pretending, and it doesn't mean I don't care. I care more than ever. But I think it's important to give yourself that grace, right? To be
Yeah,
who you really.
I love it. And I just want to add one thing. Before, when I was asking you about journalism and so forth, you mentioned things that you love. I imagine those things play a role into the success that you're having now. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because when anyone's reinventing themselves or starting over in their 50s or whatever, you're never really starting from zero because you're taking life lessons and experiences and allocating them to the new path, right?
Yeah, I always think like retiring that word reinvention in some ways we have to do, because I think that word means like, oh gosh, you didn't do it right the first time. So now you're gonna have to reinvent everything. And I don't know that you have to retire the old meaning of it, right? You have to make that mean something big. And I think that that's what you do with your formulas. You make it mean something more. Take all that stuff and evolve it into something else. I use the word all the time, then I'm like, but it's not the meaning that it used to be. The
Yeah.
meaning it used to be was you didn't do it right the first time. Now it means you take all of that knowledge, experience, wisdom, and move it into that next step.
So funny. I just did a TED talk on reinventing reinvention.
Yeah, oh, you did? I love it. It's
I
like you have to do that, right?
I agree with you 100%. For me, it's finishing and executing what you've been dying to do, but really it's arriving at you, right? It's the journey
I love
back to
that.
yourself
I
where
love
you're
that.
at now, being authentic.
Okay, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna quote you then, saying that reinventing reinvention, because it really I think sometimes we think, and that's the stress of it, right? Oh, we're gonna reinvent. We gotta do this whole new thing. We gotta become this whole new person. Like, that's not it at all. But I will say, I didn't realize how much of my old stuff came into my new stuff until pretty recently. I always thought I had to say like, I'm not doing that journalism anymore. I'm an entrepreneur now. Like, whatever, you're always going to be a journalist, and now you're storytelling in a different medium. Like, that's what I do. And so, yeah, I love that reinvention.
You're just a gladiator in a different arena now.
I love it. It's so, so true.
Yeah. Before we land the plane, with all the exciting stuff that you have going on now, you did mention a book coming out. What are you most excited about right now? Where do I
Uh,
begin, right?
huh?
Where
What'd you
do I
say?
begin?
Yeah, well, I think, I feel like I do get excited day to day to see what's going to happen next. And I think what I get most excited about is I go back to community and creating that community. I really love that, because I think all the projects and the things are great, but I think that sense of community is where that real change happens. And if we can make that change when it comes to the underfunding of women's health, we can do new studies, new research, get public service campaigns out there, do something where women feel like they're being heard, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in a doctor's office. I think that that's a big deal. That's where that change happens, is with community and with people willing to share their voices. So I get excited about that, and meeting new people. I liked meeting you.
Same. Likewise. I think
You're a
it's,
great interviewer, by the way. And
thank
I,
you.
and I think I'm a pretty good judge of that.
I would say that coming from you, that means a lot. I received that. Thank you.
I've done that for a long time. I love it. You're a great interviewer.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We'll land with some fun, little rapid fire, maybe one or
Okay,
two word answers. Whatever's good for you. You ready to rock?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Favorite movie?
When Harry Met Sally.
Classic. So funny. I only recently saw that for some reason. Me and my fiance
What?
watched. I know, but it was so
Did you,
good.
is it funny now? Is it like, it was really funny back when I
Yeah,
first saw
with Billy Crystal, right?
it? Yeah, but is it still have its funny? Because
I
you know how you, like,
had
see
the
something a long time ago.
it had its like charm and heart. It was just great. I loved it.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
Your last meal on Earth would be
Pizza.
Oof, New York pizza, I imagine.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Favorite guilty
Other
pleasure?
pizza?
Your favorite guilty pleasure?
My favorite pizza. My favorite guilty pleasure is oh gosh, yeah, pizza and Nutella. Nutella, the like hazelnut chocolate spread. That's
Do you like chocolate in general?
no, but I like hazelnut. I don't know why.
Okay, fair enough. Your favorite workout?
I love weights. I love doing legs. I love leg day.
Ooh, that's good to know. Most people feel the opposite.
I know, I know. I don't know why. I think 'cause someone told me one time it was the largest, like your legs are the largest, or like that's the biggest, the
Muscles in the body.
muscle
Yeah,
area. So I'm like, oh, good. I'm getting a whole lot of calories burned, like just right with my legs.
that's
So
what's up.
maybe I'll skip a day. Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite book. That's a good one. Let me think for a second. I liked the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a big book for me a long time. Dale Carnegie. It's really, really old school.
Classic.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a good one. Can't go wrong. Okay, and the last one, very, very deep stuff. Your favorite musician?
Share.
Classic.
I'm an 80s girl.
And that was a great decade. I was only around for half of it, but that was
Well,
great stuff.
I was here. It was very good.
Cher, Madonna, Michael Jackson back then. It's a little
All,
controversial.
I had all the posters.
Yeah,
Oh,
my brother's a little bit older than me. I only have one sibling, my best friend. He's 46, so
yeah,
like maybe 8 years older than me. But that was, I guess, his kind of generation. So because of him, I knew all that stuff. Great stuff. The
that's
80s.
great. That's great.
Yeah. How can our community and audience, I know they're going to be in love with you in 2 seconds. What's the best way for them to support you, get involved, and follow you along?
Tamsen Fadal, anywhere on social, because my name is so odd. Tamsenfadal.com. If you want that symptom tracker, it's over on my website too. You can download it there. And I just have a lot of a lot of those like free downloads if you want any of those about understanding menopause a little bit better.
Put it all in the show notes. Tamsin, hang up for 1 sec. I want to connect to you after. I want you to know the definition of wisdom, courage, and authenticity. I can personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you.